Okay, so I'm not used to the stage stuff, so I might jump down and on the ground and stuff, but we'll see how it goes. So if you guys are here, we're going to go through Bridging the BIM GAP, and what this is going to be is it's basically going to be an introduction, maybe just kind of a role of a BIM leadership role that we've been implementing and we're actually planning on expanding through for the next couple of years here at DIALOG. Just to basically get an understanding of, and I'm assuming everybody can hear me, right? Everybody get back? Yeah. All right. So just to get an understanding, do we have any BIM managers in the room? BIM managers? Yeah. Cool. Any owners, principals? All right, awesome. So it's more of a strategy presentation. We'll be basically going through some of the things that we have to plan through and in order for us to implement it. And as well, what I'll be doing is I'll be going through a few case studies and just to explain the point of how we got to the point that we're at right now. So the agenda or the learning objectives, as I mentioned, would be just basically implementing or the importance of implementing a BIM leadership role in a mid-sized firm, as well as some of the training objectives or some of the training materials that we needed to create for those BIM leaders throughout our studios, and as well training materials I mentioned, right? And defining the scope of BIM responsibilities between the BIM coordinator or the BIM role and the design technology team, which would be us. So the agenda for today, and the way that I planned this presentation is I wanted to look at timelines. I'm looking at the adoption. Introduction, we'll go through that in a bit. I'll introduce myself, formally introduce myself, and introduce the firm. And then I'm going to go through adoption, which is, and again, the way that I based, or the vision for this presentation was going through, looking at the time when we started, when we adopted Revit, and then getting into the evolution of when Revit started picking up and getting a lot of traction, and then basically right now the commitment and how we're looking at expanding this throughout the studio. Again, I'm Cal. I graduated as a production technologist up in Canada. We call them architectural technologists. And what that does is, or the position itself, it goes into detailing designs and making sure that the building is buildable. After that, you guys sitting right here up front, Martin basically got me into the BIM world and started getting into that and more experience, more interested in it, and started my BIM role. And I've been doing it for a while. And in fact, I've been instructing Revit classes and been involved or an Autodesk certified professional for about 7 years now. So it's a good career path, I guess. Sometimes stressful. Introduction about DIALOG. So these are some of the projects that we do. We specialize in a lot of healthcare. We've got healthcare. We've done some really neat high-rise buildings in Calgary. Most of these projects are in Canada, and Canada that would be Calgary, Edmonton, and basically Alberta. We're around 600 people, a bit more than 600 people. We've got 4 studios. We call them studios. One in Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, and Toronto. And we specialize, we've got it's a multidisciplined firm. We've got architecture, electrical, mechanical, structural, and landscape and interior design as well. All right, so let's get into the presentation. Let's get into the beef of this. So the adoption. Adoption was probably very, very early on, between 2007 and 2009, and we started looking at the technology, and we were kind of forced into the technology. The reason being is because of this nice project here, the Calgary Airport. It was an expansion to it was an expansion to the existing airport, and one of the things is the agreement between the firm and DIALOG was to use Revit, utilize Revit. One of the neat things about this project was we actually had to hire Revit guys at that time, we used to call. We had Revit, 3 Revit personnel or staff that basically went through and implemented Revit on this job. We went through some challenges, and I'll show you the next slide here, which is probably pretty neat. This is an email. This is an email chain that went between the principals, and basically the principals going back and forth as they spelled Revit wrong, and they didn't even know what Revit was, right? So that's where we were back in 2007, and right now we're considered one of the leaders in Canada with BIM, and I've got very interesting statistics for you towards the end of the presentation. All right, so the adoption and some of the challenges that we had with the adoption. Challenges that we had with staff is we've had our senior staff that didn't want to move into Revit. They were doing their AutoCAD details, and somewhat they were afraid of change. Everybody, for BIM managers, they know how difficult that is. And the workflow changed. Revit, they've got one model or multiple models. They needed to jump in and actually work together with other people. And typically, in the traditional way of doing things, every senior person or every CAD or AutoCAD user has their own file. They have full control over it and full responsibility over it, right? So again, some workflow changes that had to do with it. And as well, one very important challenge that we have is dealing with a learning curve. And trying to submit for deadlines. That was a pretty big challenge. The way that we completed the airport project was going through doing the plans, and it was a hybrid approach. I'm pretty sure that every one of you guys went through this as you were going through your first Revit project. By the way, the airport was our first Revit project. That was the time where we actually went through and started. Our Revit, we used Revit for plans, elevations, sections. However, we used AutoCAD for architectural millwork and finish plans. So it was a hybrid approach moving forward, and eventually the project ended up being a very good success for DIALOG as a first Revit project. It wasn't BIM, it was a Revit project. And some of the challenges as well is the collaboration. So at that time, back in 2009 approximately, there was very, very little tools. The technology wasn't there for collaboration. And within the office, we were using our network, our folder network location, just a typical K drive or O drive or whatever the case is. And externally, we only had the FTP, so we had to wait for weeks or every week getting a model once or twice from the consultants. Other issues that we had with the network is at that time, again, we were either Revit server was still pretty new, so we didn't get into that. We didn't jump on it right away. We had multiple studios working on that project, and we had to come up with some sort of schedules for syncing time. So someone working from Toronto, it used to take them about 15 minutes to open the model, depending on the model size, the model size and how many people are in it. And it used to take them between 15 and 30 minutes to sync the project every time they needed to sync. So those are challenges that we had with that project. And it was a pretty big project, so those are things that we had at that time. Clicker doesn't work. Let's see what's going on here. All right. So after that project, what we decided to do is we decided to kind of categorize our projects. Back at that time, what we did is we had most of the projects that go into our office are pretty mid to small size. So what we had to do is we had to make sure that we're delivering our product and we're doing a good job, somehow making some money off of it. So small projects, things like retail jobs and renovations were done in AutoCAD. Mixed use and medium projects were done in like a hybrid between AutoCAD and Revit. And in large projects, mega projects like airports, healthcare, high-rise, they were done in Revit. So we tried to utilize multiple software to provide and to keep on going with our Revit vision. The evolution. So this is the point of where probably 2012 PMs and principals started getting into Revit, started learning more about Revit, and they realized that there's a very huge potential. Efficiency was there, the efficiency was there, and they wanted to move with it. Now, not all the principals were on board. Probably one of the first offices to jump into Revit and do that kind of stuff was our office, the Calgary office, and somewhat the Edmonton office as well. Revit uptake. So what happened during that time is we started increasing our Revit projects. So if you think about the adoption portion of the presentation, or the adoption portion of our time period, we had maybe one project, maximum two projects. We had a Revit manager, or maybe a person that was involved in that project and was leading the BIM or the Revit aspect of that job. So we had one Revit manager. That Revit manager was leading that project, going ahead with it. Now, when we started to increase the load of a Revit project, one person is not going to be able to be in multiple locations at the same time. So that was one challenge that we had. So we jumped up from one project to probably around 10, 15 projects a year. We had one Revit manager, maybe two. So we had the strategic person, the national manager, and then we had the studio BIM manager at that time. And really what happened is 6 projects was allowed for one BIM manager. So that was one challenge that we had. We started looking at expanding the design technology team, and we had some challenges there. Some challenges could be having leadership. Like we wanted to, at that time, we couldn't find the right people to actually hire for that position. People that had enough knowledge with the product, people that were willing to move ahead and people that were willing to move ahead and be a leader. Not everybody can talk or stand up between 10 people and give lectures. That was one of the approaches that we wanted to have for our design technology team. And some of the challenges that we had at that time was content. We didn't have content, we didn't have templates. All of that stuff was falling on the BIM or the design technology team to actually create and move forward, make sure that the content is available. One of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted the end user to focus on the project, not focus on the software side of things. How do I need to, or where do I get the content from, the families, or which template should I use? Those are the things that we don't want them to focus on. We want them just to focus on the project, do your design, we'll take care of that stuff. So one of the things that we have to look at is training. So that's 2012, 2013, we're starting to look at training, and that was a big change for our principals because we used to finish school, have some AutoCAD experience, and jump into the office, and there we go, no more training, right? Training was a big change for the leadership team because it's going to it would start costing them money. They need to invest in their employees. So we look at 3 ways of training. One of them was in-house, external training, and e-learning. So started looking at these options and analyzing the benefits and the challenges or benefits and the challenges of those methods. As well, what we wanted to do is we wanted to track the training. We wanted to create records and reports of the types of trainings that we're giving out there, who's attending them, and it would help us down the road to come up with some sort of log that would identify what training is required for staff. So the first option was the in-house option. So for the in-house, we definitely couldn't just jump out there and start training Revit and stuff. So we had to come up with some materials. And what you can see on the screen there is just basically some syllabuses, some materials that we created for our training. Now the advantage of that is this stuff we can always use and reuse and reuse. One benefit to, and again, another benefit to this is you have in-house specialists that know the workflow, know the ins and outs of the office and studio, and they know the projects that we deal with. So they would be more, they would give a more specialized training that would help with the workflows that we do through our offices, and more custom to the project, so project-related training and another work. Some of the challenges that we have with that is staff availability. So staff would hit their major deadline, or their major deadline is approaching. What happens is they would want to focus on their deadlines. They don't want to focus on a 5-hour training. So we had staff missing out some of the trainings, and we consider that a challenge. The reason being is us as a very small team in a 600 plus firm, we're pretty busy. We try to schedule these trainings, we fit them in our schedule, but then if somebody misses, they would have to wait for the next training, which might happen a few months down the road. External training, our friends at Imagine, Cancel, and even Autodesk, we've had them come in. And the beauty of this, the benefits of this, is we're still using our content. The time that we spent on the class materials, we took that information and we just basically gave it to them, and they're teaching what we want them to do, or what we want them to teach. The other benefit to this was going through and networking with industry experts, giving our staff a chance to network with these experts and understand how things are working and outside of the office walls, and what other companies or other firms are using to be successful or more successful with with this new product. Challenges with that, and everybody can relate to it, it's expensive. So accommodation, travel sometimes, especially right now where dollar is very, very low. So that was a huge challenge for us, is how expensive this is. As well, we had to give up our project-related training. So the project starts, we get everybody in the room, train them, go ahead with that. We have to give that out, or we have to give that away, because now we have to go with someone else's schedule. We have to go with a consultant schedule that might be ready right away, or that we might have to wait 3 weeks for us to actually get that training. So that was another challenge that we had. E-learning. We, at DIALOG, what we did is we developed an app, not an app, like a software. And that software is based off of global training materials. What it does is it actually allows us to go in and record what classes staff completed, the scores that they got on their quizzes, those sort of things that we started getting off of that. That's a benefit to it. Another benefit is it's very cheap. You only pay once to get some sort of licensing from global training, and you don't have to worry about maintaining the product. They do it in the back. Challenges with that was, how do we keep it interesting, right? How do we keep it interesting? Staff were easily getting bored there, and they wouldn't complete the classes that they signed up for. We use Discover Dialog for multiple things as well. We use it for lunch and learns, and it works very well for that type of service. They enroll, they have their name there, they get some sort of credits. We apply those credits to their profile. It works very well for that, but we've realized some challenges with longer classes, and those challenges were just keeping them interesting. In order for us to keep them interesting, what we've done is we've hired, recently we've hired an HR learning specialist, so L&D specialist based in Toronto, and that person is actually looking at all of that stuff, all of that material that we have, and figuring out, that's their job, right? But what they're doing is they're actually starting to make it more engaging with the staff that are taking the training. So they're coming up with productive way or creative way of keeping the listener or the trainee keep them engaged with the material. So training records, what would that do? So we've got all of this stuff recorded. We have logs for every staff or every staff member, what they completed, what was the score. It helps us with many things. It gives us the ability of understanding if staff need training, what type of training that they want. So that would be a bit more efficient on our end than putting one person through the same training 10 times. What we'll do is we have those records, and it would give us some sort of idea of where we need to put that person. What are the weaknesses in their Revit skills, or it could be Navisworks, or whatever the case is. And then what we'll do is we'll get them assigned to that training. Go ahead and get them to get that again. Things like can be specialized as Revit families, right? BIM career development. So eventually what we want to do, and this is like future thinking of where we want to take our production staff, or it could be designers or whoever it is. We want them to kind of somehow build a career path, and eventually we want them, and you'll see down the road in my presentation, we want to create more BIM staff, more staff that Revit and BIM is a second nature for them. So that's kind of the idea. And the clicker is not working again. All right. Let's see what's happening. There we go. So some of the lessons learned. From our first few projects that we've done in Revit, or Little BIM, I would like to call it, is a BIM leadership role on a project is very important. Someone that would keep everybody in line, make sure that everybody is doing the best practices, and in fact, just making sure that our standards and guidelines are being applied throughout the project. So that was one thing that that would be the first thing that I would bring up as a lessons learned. Design technology is not going to be able to do everything. Right now we have about, or a bit more than 170 projects, and we're only 5 people. We're about 5. Yeah, we're 5 people divided over 4 offices. We're not going to be able to do everything, right? So we need to kind of realize that we're not going to be able to do that. Training and ongoing education. So the reason why I have 2 different things that almost mean the same thing there. Training is physically somebody sitting down and actually doing the training themselves. Going through, a handout or a lab, and actually doing it, practicing it, and getting better at it. Ongoing education is things like our monthly meetings that we have with our staff. And what we do is we make sure that we educate them. It could be on best practices. These are some of the things that we did on Project X. It didn't work out very well. We would probably want to do it another way for Project Y. It could be things like new enhancement for Revit 2017. That's more of an education. People are sitting down, they're getting aware of it, and we do that on a monthly basis. Maybe the only 2 months that we miss during the year is July, because a lot of people are not taking vacations, and the second month that we miss it is December, because again, people are taking a holiday for Christmas. So we make sure that we're involved with the staff, we know what they're doing, we try to educate them a lot on the BIM processes, Revit issues that we have on projects. We just want to make sure that we don't lose touch with them. BIM project planning. If somebody knows what BIM project planning is, it's that person right there sitting right at the front desk right there. So what we do is we try to come up with a BIM execution plan that would really really discuss a lot of details of the project. Make sure that it's not about that. It's how to bring the team together and move forward. So it's very, very important. Revit templates, Revit contents. That's a no-brainer. Training materials, best practices, and project team integration. The more we've dealt with Revit projects and BIM projects, the more we realize that it's not about architecture anymore. It's not about structural anymore. The minute that we take a project, although some of the projects that we work on, the consultants are external consultants, but what we do is we're treating everybody as one team. So we're integrating the team as much as we can, making sure that everybody knows what they're doing, everybody's on the right path, and moving forward together. In fact, some of the things that we have to do is we actually have to travel to other teams' studios or offices and give them training on things like tools that we're using that they are not using. We have to go to that extent. All right, this is the beef of the presentation, the commitment. So this is currently what's happening in our studio, or in 4 of our studios. A firm-wide commitment to BIM projects. So we're starting all of our projects in Revit. We're not doing only Revit. We want to jump in, and we're jumping in, and every time we have an opportunity to implement BIM, we're doing that on projects, as well as we're committed to coordination. So jobs that are going through our studios are being very well coordinated, and making sure that we're providing a better coordinated model. These are some of the technologies, and we call this the ecosystem in our studio. These are some of the technologies that we're working on, or we use on a day-to-day basis. So we've got our, you can see there, Revit, Rhino, SketchUp. Trying to get rid of SketchUp, by the way. One of the things that you don't see there is Formit, and we're actually starting to get into that. We want Formit because that's the only way that we can probably get rid of SketchUp. And some of the arrows, the two-direction arrows there, are just basically showing the workflow between the softwares. And we're getting into things like the Oculus. We have one of those. We try to use it we use it a lot in our Toronto office. We do a lot of interior design there, so that's where it's it's being utilized. The drone, we take a lot of nice images of bridges and buildings. And we've got a very, very expensive 3D printer in our Calgary office. We use it. It's pretty neat. I love that. Our current team, I'm just going to look at the size and the structure of the roles and stuff like that very quickly here. So our current team size is about 5 people. I believe we added 1 person in Toronto. We're still looking for 1 person in Vancouver. So if you guys are interested, a sales pitch. The structure of our team is we've got a manager, a national manager, we've got a leader, and then we have specialists, and then under that, the project teams. Our project teams are right now. Through that, our roles is, we look at, and this is, as you see, as we add the BIM leadership role, you're going to realize how this is going to change a bit, where 75% of the specialist role is to support projects and help with implementation, BIM project startup, training, project-related training. You're going to realize how some of that is going to shift, and we're going to get the specialists to actually focus on slightly different tasks once we have that BIM leadership role. And then the corporate positions are going to be 25% from the specialists doing things that are innovation, making sure that tasks or the initiatives. The lead is basically focused on implementing the strategic plan and the strategies coming from the manager, the national manager. The commitments that we currently have is we're looking at research and development. So we're looking at technologies, making sure that we're new technologies staying out there. We started getting into Formit, that's one. Dynamo Studio. We're just making sure that we keep in touch with all these technologies. One that we just completed was reality capture. We just took a project from a laser scan to a Revit model. Went through every step. Now we understand reality capture like never before. Workflows, looking at processes, making sure that we're ironing our workflows and we're getting them to be more and more efficient. And the more projects that we do in Revit and BIM, the more tweaking to our workflow that we're going through. And our workflow right now is totally different than what we were doing a year ago. Just because we realize there's more ways or better ways of better efficient ways of doing a project, and take that and move forward with that. National initiatives, things like the template, Revit content, figuring out a better way of managing our content. If you guys have a way, we're totally open to that. We're trying a few things and we're having some issues with it. So that's where we come up with the BIM coordinator role. So the BIM coordinator role, we thought that the BIM coordinator role could be a more project-specific role that would lead the BIM, that would lead and mentor our BIM technicians or BIM project staff and make sure that everything is on track. So that's how we came up with this role. It was just basically sitting down, looking at ideas between each other. What did we bring up this BIM leadership role, right? The strategy behind that was, we had to make sure that we identified who are the potential BIM leaders for BIM, potential BIM coordinators. We've identified the number people that had basically years of experience with Revit. We had people that completed Revit projects. So we came up with a list of requirements for those BIM roles or BIM coordinators to become BIM coordinators. As I mentioned, potential BIM coordinators, we had to come up with a curriculum. So we had to come up with a way for the BIM or new staff that want to become BIM coordinators. We wanted to make sure that they have some sort of career or training path that they can follow with our mentorship and then eventually get to that level. Build classes, we mentioned that, we're still doing it. Now we've got the project of building classes for a BIM coordinator. We've identified about 11 classes that we need to build for the BIM coordinator, so we're in the process of doing that. And assessments. We want to make sure that our BIM coordinators are always at the leading edge. We want to make sure that we're assessing them on an annual basis. We're using Knowledge Smart for this, by the way. We've created an assessment for BIM coordinator, for BIM coordinators, and we're going through and tweaking it on a day-to-day basis. The nice thing about Knowledge Smart is what we can do is we can go through and customize the content that we want to provide for in our systems. It's not only Knowledge Smart. What we've done there is our e-learning. So Global E-Training provides quizzes as we're going through and someone's finishing a chapter, and that would actually keep them in the loop of and making sure that they are understanding and getting familiar with the content that they're going through and learning. So this is a good example of a strategic plan that was done for training or classes that we need. So within this smart sheet that we have there, we've got classes. So basically what we've done is we've broken the classes into 3 categories: BIM 100, 200, 300. Those are the same classes that you would find on Discover Dialog. It's the same, it would be the same format. And then within that, from those classes, those are main classes within the firm. And then from those, what we do is we use those classes. We pick some of these classes and generate certain courses, like the BIM Coordinator course. It would be created from these classes. When we submitted this to the principals there, they like to look at numbers and know how much things would cost. So we had to put in hours, training hours, how long it would take to actually finish a training. And all of this is based off of e-learning very, very minimal external, and we're looking at our internal specialists to do the ongoing education. That's how we're looking at it at the moment. The type of training. So is it a lab? Is it a lecture? If it's a lab, how much is it going to cost us to bring laptops? And looking at the numbers that we needed to rent laptops all the time, what we did is our IT department decided to buy cheap laptops that would avoid this problem. And when would we plan on doing the training or getting the training completed? So we usually go by physical years. Pretty sure you guys do that too. So we basically based a timeline of when we will have the training done or completed. So now this is how we're looking at it. We've got our BIM coordinator between the specialists and the project team, which would allow them to be more exposed to the project. They have to be part of the project to actually support them and be and the clicker dies again. All right, let's go back to here and looking at the role. There we go. So looking at the role, 75% or about 75% of the specialists is now being focused on corporate, which would allow us to move faster. Again, look at the technology that we have. A few years ago, we only had Revit. We were happy with that. Dynamo never existed to us. And right now, we're looking at Dynamo. We're looking at Rhino, Grasshopper. Right now, there's Foreman. There's a lot of things happening. So what we need to do is we need more people to focus on learning and development, trying to test these things. Do they work? Do they work with the type of projects that we do? If they don't, then we don't need to focus on them. So we need a lot of that, and definitely they're going to be supported or they're going to be supervised by the lead of that team. But we want to make sure that we are on the leading edge. We don't want to be on the bleeding edge, but we want to be on the leading edge, which would allow that specialist to focus 25% or a bit more than that on the BIM coordinator, mentoring them, making sure that they have the skills to run the projects and to help the project teams move forward and provide more or better BIM or more BIM success on the projects there. The way that we're planning on moving this forward is we want our design technology team involved on major projects. So things like an airport. I think what we need to do, well, this is my opinion, is we want the lead and a specialist to focus on the startup of that project, focus on mentoring and making sure that we're helping the BIM coordinator run that project, and we're going to be hands-on on that project. Because again, if you look at a hospital or an airport, it's a high-risk project. We want to make sure that we're doing it right and we're moving ahead with it. We're looking at smaller projects. What we can do is we can educate or we can train the BIM coordinator enough to actually get them to set up that project and go ahead and run away with it, just because the risk factor isn't that high enough. And what we want to do is we always want to supervise those BIM coordinators, always make sure that they're on the right track, because eventually they're representing us on the project level. So some of the requirements, responsibilities, and challenges that we see with the BIM coordinator position. Again, everything comes with requirements and challenges. It's not an easy job, trust me. So we are looking for a requirement for the BIM coordinator role is at least 2 years of experience with BIM projects. So we want them to know the workflow of the BIM project. We want them to have modeling experience. We want them to have coordination experience, 3D coordination experience. We want them to be as involved as possible for the last 2 BIM projects and make sure that they know how it goes. Definitely, we want them to know our baseline. So this is our platform baseline. So we had to generate this from that big list of technology that we have. What we had to do is we had to make it a bit more less complicated for our staff and get them to kind of know some of these software. So as you can see right here, is we're looking at format. Hopefully we can avoid using SketchUp. We're looking at phasing that out with format, and we want them to be experts with Revit. There's no exception there. They have to be experts in Revit. Knowing 3ds Max, because they're going to be in charge of the coordination, 3D coordination of the job. BIM 360 Blue, we use that on some projects, so we want them to know that. So basically, taking that huge list of project or platforms that we use, and what we're doing is we're actually making it more simple, getting them to understand what we use, or this is the platform that we use on about 80% of our projects. But again, Revit is no exception. We want them to be Revit experts. We want them to, well, for the potential 12 BIM coordinators that we have throughout or firm-wide, they don't need to go through this curriculum. It's just a waste of time because they know what they've been doing. Trust them. But for new interested staff that want to become BIM coordinators, we want them to go through the courses that we've created for them. So we want them to go through the BIM 100, 200, 300 courses that we've created, and we want to make sure that they are certified BIM coordinators. So we're looking at creating we have one right now, the DIALOG BIM Coordinator assessment, and we're making it not easy, but we're making it a bit difficult. That when somebody achieves a pass with that assessment, they can feel very, very confident that they can run the project on their own. And upon that, we are planning on giving them a certificate, a dialogue certificate, saying that, hey, you guys are a BIM coordinator now. You can run a project, right? Achievements, right? If you Ashraf's talk yesterday was about making people feel good. All right, responsibilities. So the BIM coordinator, some of the responsibilities of the BIM coordinator. Oh, we're doing out of time. All right, I think we're going to go. So some of the responsibilities for a BIM coordinator is project setup. So that BIM coordinator should know enough to know the services that are out there. We know this stuff because we come here and we go to AU, we know all that stuff. We know the services that are out there. When a project is presented to us, we know the right questions. We know the questions to ask. We know what type of services are out there, like the cloud. For the last few projects, and you'll see in a few slides here, the last few projects that we've been doing, we've had external designers. We've had designers that work in London. We've had designers that work in New York. How do we deal with that? Revit server is not going to cut it. We tried it. It didn't work, right? So we want them to know what the services out there are. We want to educate them on this product that we have, this service from imagining to clarity, and what it does is it automates tasks. We want them to know it. We want them to understand how to create these tasks, make sure that they're running, and utilize them for the best of the project. Maybe we don't need to create it. I've got a note there. That note says PDF tasks. We used to create PDF tasks on a day-to-day basis for big projects. Well, is it BIM or is a project manager going to sit down and look at these PDFs every day, right? How much change is going to happen on those PDFs, right? So we have to utilize them in a better way. BIM execution plan. We want them to have a general idea of how to create a BIM execution plan, the questions that they need to ask for those BIM planning work for those projects, and sit down with the PM and have an intelligent BIM conversation. That's what we're looking at. Standards, they're representing our standards, although I hate the word standards, but they're representing our standards. They need to know the graphic standards, and they need to know best practices. So they need to represent us and make sure that if something's going wrong, either raise a flag, let us know what's happening, or they have some sort of authority to jump in and actually let the person that's causing problems on that job to know what those problems are and either mentor them or change them. Revit setup, so Revit model setup, shared coordinates, copy monitor, coordination, that would be Revit coordination, like the interference check, going through, making sure that everything is working fine. right? Those are things that we want the BIM coordinator to do. One-on-one training, again, as I mentioned, mentoring and team support. That BIM coordinator is going to be the first line of support for the project team, and then we're going to be the people that are supporting the training. Where eventually we want to treat, but the design technology team, we're just going to be the SWAT people, or the SWAT team that comes in when really gives us a big call with the job. Model management. You guys do this? Just a show of hands. Yes. Great for you guys. Model management is very, very important. Very, very important. We have weekly tasks, monthly tasks, and as required tasks. So we've got this spreadsheet or this Excel sheet right here. We keep on adding to it, and that just basically gives us those tasks in a format. We're thinking about how to make this a smart spreadsheet here. We've talked to a few people in the exhibit hall, and I think we're onto something. But so things like auditing, purging, warnings, and monitored objects, making sure that those are required on a weekly basis. Again, not everybody works the same. We want to make sure that we've got a good handle on that. We want to make sure that people are working the same way everywhere. Monthly tasks, those are going to be filters, making sure that our filters are working correctly. Design options. Again, they create many design options. They never bother to go in and actually delete them. That's just going to kill our model, right? Revit file sizes and central rebuilding. Now, with the cloud, this is becoming a bit more difficult, the central rebuild. But with Revit servers and some of our network locations, we're trying not to use the network location, but still have the odd project on it. What we do is we try to rebuild the server every 1,000 save. Now that would change depending on the project size, depending on how many people are working in that project. That's a factor as well. As required tasks, those are restoring backups. Again, that's probably something that you never want to do, but that's one of the options there. Creating custom families, making sure that BIM coordinator is specialized in creating these custom families that we probably need to create related or project-related families or content. To make sure that the BIM coordinator is, again, successful with BIM projects, they need to know the process, they need to know the workflow. So we created a diagram right here where it shows them how, when we start the project, what are the stages of that project goes through, and then through those stages, what type of software that we use, what type of software that we recommend they should use for those things like Revit, Navisworks, BIM 360 Blue, Revit, Revisto. Those are things that we're just streamlining the process for projects. So this is very quick. I'm going to go through this here very quickly because we're running out of time. This is a kind of a graph that we have in mind for BIM coordinator. So this line right here, the orange line, that's going to be the project life. So that's basically the curve of when that project starts at schematic design, and it keeps on going up to that 100%. The gray line that we have over here, that's how we envision that the BIM coordinator is going to go through and provide support or maybe modeling, whatever the case is, to make sure that the project stays on track. And then as you notice, this line right here, that yellow line, and what it does is it intersects with that gray line, because at one point, when the modeling is done, the modeling is complete, now we're focusing on annotation or documentation of the project. That's going to start going, the support time is going to start going down, and then more time spent on the project will start going on. Now, if you think about this, probably one of the questions that you have in mind if you are a an owner or a PM, well, I'm not going to take my best Revit person and have an 80% non-billable. I would argue that that's not the case. Non-billable is a very big word. If I'm going in and I'm working on a project and I'm making sure that the drawings are looking clean, I'm doing coordination on the job, that's still billable, right? That's still under that curve right there. So really, you gotta fine tune what do you need of overhead and non-billable time. Clicker. Something must be wrong with this room. The clicker, whatever the case is. So just with a BIM, I took this graph and I put it in a BIM workflow graph, and I just want to show you that it fits pretty well with that workflow. Again, when the modeling is happening on the project, more time is needed for support. And making sure that the project is on track, sitting down, having those BIM meetings and BIM kickoff meetings and all that stuff. All of that is within this big curve, and then once we start with the construction documents, that curve just kind of goes down. The amount of work required in a BIM workflow, it goes down basically when you're at that documentation portion. Very different than the traditional way of modeling. I'm pretty sure that you guys seen this graph multiple times. It's not the first time that we have. Some of the challenges that we have, or some of the challenges that we see with this role is workloads. Again, this is very, very important. We see a challenge with workflows is because it's a role of the job. We see that if there's deadlines that they have to achieve, there's a very good chance that they will ditch the BIM management, the model management, all of that stuff might come back to us, and we're going to have to deal with it. Passion is very important. We've got this BIM coordinator that was working on the project that I'll show you here. That person just loves technology. He loves technology. He makes sure that the model is one of the cleanest models, one of the most coordinated models. This guy's amazing. That's the type of people that we need. The passion of technology and ongoing learning. He's always there, always wants to know more about software. This guy's amazing. Staff turnover, that's a problem anywhere, I guess. We don't have a lot of staff turnover, but the last thing that we want to do is invest in staff, put them through training and stuff like that, and eventually get working out lots. And resourcing staff. We have to make sure that we sit down. We're doing this. We want to do this in our timing of it. We want to sit down with our staff resourcing, because those are some of the challenges that we have with. That's still good. Let me stop this thing. There we go. So we want to make sure that our staff, our resourcing staff, understand that the BIM management on the job takes some time, right? That's what we're going to do. So those are some of the challenges that we see with this role. Now, these are some of the projects that we've implemented, or the BIM coordinator role was very, very successful. Brookfield. So this is a project in downtown Calgary. This is probably our very own BIM project. It started. We had our external designer in London. We had to work with that London designer. We sent the BIM lead on a trip to London to actually educate them on the Revit template. So that's again going into the integration of the team, making sure that we all are working as one. And in fact, I learned yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon that the change orders on this job was 6%. So 6% change order. The project is almost at 100% completion. So I believe, Martin, am I correct to say that they're putting lots of pieces of glass on that thing? Yeah. So the project is almost complete. Phase 1 of the project, there's another phase 2 of that because of the economy stuff happening up in the north. That's not going forward, but we're at 6% change orders. That's huge on a 58-story building, right? Again, the effectiveness of the BIM coordinator. We have regular meetings with our staff, making sure that they're on track, making sure that we're moving forward together. Best practices, Navisworks, doing a lot of that stuff, making sure that we're moving forward. The coordination, again, internal coordination with Navisworks, making sure all the consultants are providing their models, and we go through and do the clash detections externally with the contractor. We work very, very close with the contractor, making sure that the sequencing that we have to do for that building is on track and work very well. That was one of the most successful projects up to date with benefit project. As I mentioned, coordination. Telesky. Again, another external project. Now, the highlights of this is we have this on a Revit server, and then what we have to do is we have to move that project to the cloud. And it was very, very successful on every side of that move. Calgary, the new Calgary library, again, we worked with an architect or designers in New York for this, and again, this turned out. And a big thanks to the team, to the BIM coordinators that led this job. That's another big success. Retail. We're getting into retail now. We've got our good Revit coordinators or Revit experienced staff taking the newcomers and actually educating them on Revit and BIM and how things tie together. We're starting to get into these small projects. Probably right now, at this moment, about 90% of our retail jobs are actually being done in Revit. And then some of our big jobs, this is a redevelopment of an entire block, probably a little bit bigger than a block. That's done as well in Revit. We're using glue on this, BIM 360 glue. We've got a BIM execution plan. It's a complicated project, and we've got that BIM coordinator taking it, moving forward with it, only coming to us when he needs us, and he's doing well. Hospitals. This is an old project. It started construction, but what is very important about this is because of the BIM coordinator on this job, we won the interoperability award for 2015 through Canada. So it's a big organization that we have up in Canada, and because of the database that BIM coordinator created between the doors, we had about 10,000 doors on that job. The database between the Revit model and Excel and the way that we put that stuff together, it was amazing. We got an award for that last year. Last year, I believe, in February. Well, right now what I want to do is we're probably running a bit late, so I'm not going to open the floor for discussion, but after this, what we'll do is we'll have any questions if you guys want. I just want to jump into the future here and identify the gap. So I was sitting down and I probably stole Martin's idea here, the gap. So what we've been missing is a leadership role on our projects. And I was sitting down, and in no way I'm a football fan, probably boo for me, right? But I was sitting down and thinking, and your quarterback, the person that actually leads the team, right? That person has some sort of connection, and that person's talking to you've got the coach, which is usually the specialist. That's how I would put it, right? And then you've got that quarterback that is actually leading the team and making sure that they're going towards that goal, right? That's the type of leadership that we need. We want our design technology specialists to focus on other things, plus focusing on leading that coordinator to provide better solutions and successful projects for our BIM projects. We want everyone to be an expert. That's our vision. We want to make sure that we provide the materials, make sure that everybody knows about the technology, knows about the services that we have, and we allow them to feel just more of a career path and make sure that they move forward and enjoy what they're doing. Trust me, giving people information would help them, or it would make our life easier when we're trying to implement the technology. We're looking at creating BIM coordinators for sectors right now. So we're planning like some of the sectors, like interior design is a good example. We got a lot of small projects, not enough budget, so what we want to do is we want to create one BIM coordinator or two BIM coordinator that will deal with these with multiple projects. So that's how we're dealing with that. Making sure that including a budget for BIM in our projects, we're still working on this with some of the leads there. Getting HR to mandate the BIM coordinator role on projects. This is coming pretty soon. Leadership, again, as I mentioned, identifying the gap. Leadership is very important. More BIM manager experience that they need on projects, and eventually what we're doing is indirectly we're investing in them to eventually become BIM project managers. So we're looking at the future with that and making sure that we're moving forward with the technology. I guess that would be it for me. And I'll open the floor for any questions if you guys have. And please don't forget to do those surveys. Yes?
You guys, you talked briefly about the idea of a BIM project manager. Is that somebody more focused on production and execution of projects, as if they just have the BIM experience and they grew up in a world with BIM?
So we've got the BIM manager, which is mostly focused on national initiatives, but then we've got the specialist that is focused on project initiatives, so making sure that the project is moving forward.
Okay, so I guess my question is that you guys, we're starting to see a change a little bit because of the recession in the States, at least.
Yes.
We saw a huge amount of what we call kind of project architects gone from the industry, and so as a result, we have seen a lot of younger architects who don't have the architectural experience, but they've got a huge amount of BIM experience. Now, they're all of a sudden put into a leadership role, and we're kind of having to target those guys. So are you guys seeing the same thing? Are you guys starting to see architects and project managers, and even, dare I say, principals who have BIM expertise being involved in things?
One of the things that we're doing is we are educating our principals, and so now sitting down with the principal, for dialogue especially, our principals are very young. So that's probably one thing that is different than other firms. It's amazing. Like yesterday, I had a call from a principal, and that principal was talking to me with the BIM language of the project. That I'm like, wow, that guy knows a lot of this. So, and a lot of that is from us sitting down with them and educating them on BIM processes, BIM projects. Like a good example would be Brookfield. Brookfield, we have one senior principal and one junior principal on that job. Both opposed the idea of actually putting the project to Revit, but then we got forced by many clients or many factors of the job to put it in Revit and move forward. And right now, they're probably they're the principals that would actually bring us in for every job we need to do. And they want it to be done because they've seen the efficiency, they've seen the advantage of, especially with our education, the ongoing education. So in Canada, we probably deal with things a bit different. The BIM manager role is more of a technical role. So that would be technologists that would take that role forward. We've had, well, for us, we haven't had, well, within our firm, we haven't had an architect wanting to do that job just because probably if they're into architecture, they probably want to design buildings or be more technical. But I'm not sure how it runs here in the States. But is that a good answer? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any incentives for your staff to become BIM coordinators? Is it like compensation or?
We're looking at that as we're looking at. You're right. We need to figure out a way to keep them. Well, if they're looking at more responsibility, we have to figure out something. We haven't. I am bringing that up as a concern, and eventually we will figure out a way to get it through. So maybe if we can't, it's probably cheaper to give them salary adjusted than actually sending them to. Like somehow reward them, right? Either by sending them to conferences like this, or maybe an incentive or increasing their salary in other cases. But we are looking at that. Any other questions? Are we ready to go to the vote? All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for showing up. And again, it was the last session of the day, and I really appreciate you guys showing up. So, and please keep in mind the class surveys, and I'll be here tomorrow. So feel free to.